But what I learned this week in biology is we all know how important it is to stay hydrated. But one thing that I've always struggled with is when I was a dental assistant, when I was a nurse, I would always explain to people how important it was to stay hydrated. But to be completely honest, I wasn't understanding the fundamentals behind actual hydration. And I heard one thing that just completely made me think of everything differently. Body is basically water. But have you ever thought about the fact that if you get cut, you don't leak out water? I don't know. When I heard that thought, I was just like, made me think about things differently. And then I started going through this biology class and it just, all of it clicked. It finally made so much sense. The truth is that our body is 60% water, but water has to attach to something. See what I'm saying? So water can't just be free flowing in us. It has to attach to something inside of us. This is why electrolytes are so important. We need water for everything in our body to move around and do things, but they have to be attached to some type of element to allow them to have access to that, essentially. Anyways, long story short, people are starting to understand how important it is to stay properly hydrated. But a lot of what I see now is everybody's going after these fads of getting these electrolyte packs and these powders and whatever, and it's a lot of packaged, expensive stuff. Just like how I said, my groceries are way more expensive this week because I bought packaged things. This is also a really big piece, is that I've struggled with anxiety and depression for a really long time, and it's always been something that I've hated that has never been addressed on a cellular level. Because if you don't have the energy to do things, you need to get more energy. But that's where you go to the doctor and you say that I have low energy, I'm depressed, whatever, and they're just going to put you on medication, but you're still not addressing the root of the problem, that your body is deprived of its essential minerals and vitamins to be able to function. You wouldn't expect a plant to grow if you didn't give it light and water, right? So we're the same way, but we are like these electric robot machines. It's so crazy when you really understand how our body works, and we need those electrolytes. I'm going to try to describe this in the most simple way because it's complicated, but at the end of the day, it's so simple. So essentially, salt is an essential part of our diet because salts contain electrolytes, but not all salts are created the same. So iodine salt is the salt that I have always used, and I always use this because I knew as a nursing student that we need iodine in our diet to help with our thyroid function. So I've always used this thinking that this was healthy. I didn't know that salts are not created equal. So I did just buy this Redmond's real salt. You can also get Celtic salt or Himalayan salt. But the reason why this salt isn't the best for you is that it's been so processed down that it essentially doesn't have minerals left in it that are actually essential for your body. And this, having too much of this table salt, can force you to retain water, which then can increase your blood pressure. Isn't that so crazy? But when you have a real salt that has real electrolytes in it, it's so important to have good salt. And the other thing that I realized is that in the nursing world, we were taught to tell people have 8 glasses of water a day. I found it hard to tell my patients that because I wouldn't drink 8 glasses of water a day. And I am very big on intuitive eating, intuitive whatever. Our bodies are so unique that I don't think that there is a one fits all. So to give somebody a direction of drink 8 glasses of water every day just doesn't seem very realistic, and it doesn't really make sense. I didn't know how to go around that, and so I didn't really understand how to connect with my patients to help them understand that. I had one thing that I felt last week. Have you ever had when you're drinking water because you're so thirsty and you drink a bunch of water and then your belly feels full, but you still don't feel hydrated? Because remember what I said in the beginning, you don't bleed water. So if you drink a bunch of water because you feel dehydrated, you're going to drink a bunch of water, but if you don't have enough electrolytes to attach to the water, then that water just gets depleted right out of you. And that's why it made so much sense. Why people don't talk about this, I don't really know. But essentially, to ensure that you have proper hydration, you should be first and foremost, majority of the liquid that you consume should be water. So that means that if you love Diet Coke or sodas or juices, that's fine, but you still need to have majority of your liquids coming from actual water. And then on top of that, you need to wash your urine. So you want your urine to be like a light pale. If it's white, if it's clear, that means that you don't have enough electrolytes and the water is just passing through you. If you have dark urine, that means that your body needs water. It needs water. If you have darker urine, it's not a good sign. But the other way that you can also identify for signs of dehydration is your mucosa, so your lips and your eyes. Those are very thin parts of your skin, so they're gonna show where you're dehydrated. So if you have chapped lips, that's a sign that you might be dehydrated. If you have headaches, that's also a sign you could be dehydrated, because we actually don't have nerve endings in our brain. So a lot of times when we have, unless you have something serious going on, a lot of times when you have headaches, it's because you're dehydrated, because your brain actually shrinks because it doesn't have the fluid in your brain to allow it to expand. Isn't that crazy? So I realized that personally, I do drink a good amount of water. I don't drink anything else but water, but I have been noticing that I've been dehydrated. And this is another piece that I found out that is wild to me. So we know that our cells need energy to do things in our body. And part of that energy comes from our electrolytes. Well, if you are somebody who is anxious and somebody who thinks a lot, you have to understand that while you may not be physically moving your body a bunch, if your brain is going, all of those thoughts require energy, just like if you were to be working out. And this is so important to understand, because what I have now realized is that if you are constantly stressed and your body is in the fight or flight mode, your body depletes of all electrolytes, because you're thinking so much, you're using so much energy in your brain that it depletes all of your electrolytes, because your brain needed them to have those thoughts. Another thing is that your adrenal glands, which produce your hormones, also need vitamin C. So if you have any type of anxiety, you have brain fog, any of those things, I highly recommend to look into your body and how you feel if you're properly hydrated. So looking at your urine, checking your thin mucosa, wherever your skin is very thin. Another way to check is that we do this in nursing, is if you pinch the top of your skin is elastic and it should just go straight back down. Can't really pinch, but it shouldn't. If it tense up and stays like this, if you let go and it stays like this, that means that your skin is so depleted in water that it can't even go back to its resting space. So that's if you have skin turgor, I don't know how to say the word. If you have that, it's also a sign of dehydration. This made so much sense to me. And it also was really sad to be a female that went through the medical system and really realized that the medical field is not designed for women. If you really look into it, all studies that are done on medication and basically all history we have of medicine has been practiced on men. And women do not have the same components of our body, is just not the same. We have different hormones, we have different fluctuations, and that's the other thing, is that men have a 24-hour. Their hormones stay the same all month long, but our hormones fluctuate so that we can have our ovulation, which is then the opportunity for us to carry a baby. But in order for us to be able to have that opportunity to carry that baby, our body requires so much inside that women really need to be very conscientious of their hydration status. And being in your follicular and luteal, follicular and ovulatory phase are the phases that you really want to make sure that you're increasing your hydration. Because if you think about it, even in nature, when springtime comes around, that's when it starts raining a bunch. And then that's when, in ovulatory summer, then that's when we get the flowers that bloom. This was a long one, sorry. But this just blew my mind about how important not even water is, but proper hydration. And the limited information out there to help people understand why it's so important, and that you don't have to have a bunch of money to do it either. So I actually would recommend not to buy those hydration sticks, not to buy the powders, because it's also not bio-readily available for your body. So your body's going to be able to absorb that salt way easier than it is a packet full of, it does have electrolytes in it, but it also has sugar and it also has preservatives. And so when you take those packets, it's like your body has to sort through everything to find the pieces that it wants, rather than just giving it what it wants and that's it. It's less work for your body. But I didn't know this, and I've been in the medical field for 10 years. So hopefully you found this interesting. And this haul, I forgot to say, this haul was I think $92. It was definitely a lot more expensive, which is why it's so important to also, if you want to eat healthy, to focus on whole foods and don't get as much processed stuff. Like, would not be buying this unless that I was going out of town next week, but you know, that is better than getting stuck eating some type of fast food at the airport. So this is my haul.